recently Saudi Arabia has undergone a remarkable transformation.
We're looking at societal reforms for women, the lifting of the driving ban, the lifting of the guardianship.
Quick introduction, she is a senior journalist and also the head of Diplomat and Foreign Affairs. And you also have a media company, and you just recently started your own podcast.
And I know most of the tech startups that I know that are really making an impact in the kingdom are led by women. They're run by women. When we talk about SMEs and small businesses, majority are owned and run by women. When we're talking about hospitality, restaurants, these small businesses, all owned and run by women. I myself have a media company, and I'm a woman. So it just speaks for itself firsthand, the changes that we're seeing.
She mentioned 40% of women are now in the workforce. Maybe it has risen in the meantime. It was last summer that we had her on our podcast.
Also, our landscapes, all diverse. When you look at the Red Sea, you have some of the most cleanest, crisp waters with the most beautiful wildlife there. And then we have rough terrains, we have desert. So I think geographically, this is one misconception that people just believe it's just desert.
And also in honor of your podcast, it's called Passions, Let's Make an Impact. I love the title. What impact do you hope to leave behind? Hi everyone, and welcome back to another episode of Female Empowerment, the podcast. My name is Simone, and I am thrilled to be joined today from Saudi Arabia by Lama. I hope I pronounced that name correctly, but she's going to name her name shortly afterwards too. Quick introduction, she is a senior journalist at Arab News, one of the biggest, if not the biggest media company in the Middle East. Did I get that? I researched that correctly, right? It is one of the biggest media companies.
It's under SRM. It's under SRMG, yes, but it's the largest, daily newspaper in English in Saudi Arabia.
Wow. So yeah, and you're also the head of Diplomat and Foreign Affairs, and in your free time, or additionally, you also have a media company, and you just recently started your own podcast. So thank you so much for taking the time and be here with us.
No, thank you, Simone, for having me. It was a beautiful introduction. It was a perfect introduction. Everything was well pronounced, and it's a pleasure to be on.
Well, I'm always happy to learn new, maybe words or names. It's always a pleasure. Well, we always start with the first question, and it goes right back at the beginning of your career, or at the beginning of your life, I would say. What or who shaped and influenced you? Because I do think the person that we become, it starts way earlier in our life. And I would really love to hear your story.
It's a beautiful question, and I think it's a great place to start. So thank you for asking that question. Who would be my mother? I'm very close with my mom. She's my best friend. So growing up, even the atmosphere she created for us, we were surrounded by knowledge. She had this growing and deep love for literature. So we were surrounded by classical literature our entire lives growing up. So I always had this passion for writing, reading, consuming information. And my mother had a passion for diplomacy. She's a teacher by trade. That's what she studied. That's what she worked with. And she mainly worked with schools, underfunded schools. She worked in different countries and different areas, even when we were in the US a very long time. And she always had this love for diplomacy, even if she wasn't a traditional diplomat. I remember growing up, we'd invite our neighbors, next door neighbors in Texas, over to our house, and she'd show them kebsa, our which is like a dish in Saudi Arabia, a rice dish. And she would tell them this is how it's made, this is its origin, these are the spices. She was always so outspoken and proud about representing the kingdom. So as a child, witnessing that every day of your life, this soft power diplomacy, you can't help but inherently be affected by it. I think so. When I go back to childhood, I was deeply affected by my mother and who she was as a woman. And also to add to that, she had a love for service. She still has this huge love for service, helping people any chance she got. So she would always tell us, and I remember these words kind of resonate in my mind as an adult: find every opportunity to do good constantly. So whether that's, giving a cold water bottle to someone that might be working outside in the heat, or giving an internship, a job for someone, or an opportunity. So I think being surrounded by this soft power diplomacy, being surrounded by this woman who had a love for literature and knowledge and service and community outreach, I think I can't help but have become the person I am as a result of watching her, observing her throughout my childhood.
Yeah, I love the word that you pointed out, soft power diplomacy. There is such a big and huge meaning behind it, but also impact. Um, you have, as I briefly mentioned, you have your own media company, your podcast, but also you're in journalism. What is the vision behind all of that? What drives you at the core of it? Because it is not, I imagine it's not easy because it's a lot and you do leave a huge impact.
I think what drives me is people, as cliche as it is. I've always had a passion for people, meeting people, connecting with people in service. And I think, it goes back to what I said about my mother, always find an opportunity to do good. I believe we've all been blessed with, abilities and skills and talents, and we have to find a way to use our talents for good. And I think that's what led me to media, whether it's working as a journalist, whether it's finding, like, starting my media company. I think just a genuine passion for people and hearing their stories and connecting with them that constantly drives me to say, okay, I've done this, now I can do more. Let's expand. How else can we connect with people globally? Showcase what we have to offer as people in the kingdom, who we are, our identity, our culture, but also how we can support other people in other countries, the sharing of know-how, the sharing of knowledge, everything the kingdom has accomplished. I think there's a lot to learn, and I think as a journalist, I'm so privileged to be in the position that I can connect with people, share our stories, share their stories, and just kind of connect as human beings at a very personal level.
Yeah, like sharing the stories of others and to be connected, to really see what other people are living through and to try to see life through their eyes. Yeah, that is a powerful thought, definitely. You also mentioned briefly vision and also the kingdom. And recently, Saudi Arabia has undergone a remarkable transformation. We also had Dr. Margarete Schambeck on our podcast, and she briefly talked about it. And when she mentioned her life in Saudi Arabia, especially in Riyadh, and how the country has changed and left or is leaving a huge impact, I was like, we need a woman from Saudi Arabia. So here you are. And this transformation is largely driven by 2030, Division 2030. My question to you is, can you tell us more about that and also the impact it has left personally on your career, the individual journey of, its citizens?
And you said it remarkably, Vision 2030 has left a tremendous impact, not just on the country, but on the personal lives of each and every citizen within the kingdom, and also expats that are coming within the kingdom. When we look at Vision 2030, it was announced in 2016, and it looked at this large scale plan that looked out of this world if we think about it. But now we're in 2025, and we've seen the plans followed through, and we've even surpassed the goals of Vision 2030 in some sectors. So it looks at
Wow.
diversification. Yeah, it's remarkable, honestly. It looks at
5 years
diversification.
in advance.
You have to come to Saudi. I want you to come see it genuinely, because I can tell you about these figures. I can tell you about the diversification, but seeing it firsthand, and you speak to the people, and we have actually surpassed the goals. As a Saudi citizen being here, I've seen it. So it's diversification away from oil. We're looking at, sectors that I'm seeing firsthand within the kingdom, education, tech, and AI. I mean, what Sadai is doing, what the Kingdom of Saudi Arabia is doing in AI is so incredibly advanced. The first open heart surgery, fully robotic open heart surgery in the entire world was performed in the Kingdom of Saudi Arabia by a Saudi doctor and his team. So people don't know that. That's all AI. And it's incredible
Yeah.
seeing it firsthand and being a journalist seeing it. We're seeing, infrastructure reforms, some of the most advanced metro, transportation I've ever seen, the cleanest, most efficient. We're looking at societal reforms for women, the lifting of the driving ban, the lifting of the guardianship laws. Now you can travel if, as a woman freely. I mean, before this wasn't allowed, you had to have guardianship permission. So all of these reforms across sectors have opened up opportunities, the investment coming in within the kingdom, but also the investment going out, the job creation, the advancements in AI, tech, social reforms, infrastructure, travel and hospitality. When we look at the major projects alone, we have Diriyah, we have Giddiya, which is, if you look at it, it's remarkable. I drove by it the other day just because out of curiosity, because I was thinking, no way they have, executed this plan. You're looking at the way I describe it, and I'm not a spokesperson for them, but the way I describe it is Disney World meets Six Flags meets Universal Studios on steroids. That's like what I think of it. It's like this
Yeah.
huge adventure village where you can live. It's amazing. The quality of life as well in these projects, remarkable. So this is all as a result of Vision 2030, the line, the Red Sea. So we're looking at transformation across sectors, diversification of the economy, and also tourism, hospitality, reforms, and improved quality of life for Saudis and also
Mm.
for expats. I just recently, maybe an hour ago, I finished filming another episode of discussions of the podcast under the media company I have. And we filmed with an expat who is a prominent radio host from Sydney who moved to Saudi Arabia because he heard about the changes firsthand and came to see it and immediately said, how can I live and work here? And he's just one of so many cases that I have seen that are happening because the changes speak for themselves.
Exactly. The changes speak for themselves. I remember when Dr. Margarete, she mentioned 40% of women are now in the workforce. Maybe it has risen in the meantime. It was last summer that we had her on our podcast. And then you also mentioned when we met earlier that 80% of women are in the tech sector are in the executive, the administration area. So can you let us more know about that? Because women they have a huge impact, especially in Vision 2030.
No, they do. So I don't have the exact figure, but 80% was just me talking about my team and my office, or
Mhm.
80%,
Oh,
women, female dominated. And that's saying a lot because it's journalism, it's a media sector. Funny enough, I was at a conference, a press conference for a new announcement for Google, and the executives from Google, the C-suite executives, were looking around the room and they said, oh, it's all women. And it was quite literally all women. It was 13 to 14 women working in journalism and media. And I know most of the tech startups that I know that are really making an impact in the kingdom are led by women. They're run by women. When we talk about SMEs and small businesses, majority are owned and run by women. When we're talking about hospitality, restaurants, these small businesses, all owned and run by women, and they're being supported by the government. We have a lot of incredible government support when it comes to startups. I myself have a media company and I'm a woman. So it just speaks for itself firsthand, the changes that we're seeing, and it all goes back to government support. I had a delegation come from the United Kingdom where I was telling them about what it's actually like being a woman in Saudi Arabia. And I told them in this room, you can ask me any question you want. I won't be offended. I'm open to all questions because I like the idea of curiosity. And when you come with a curious question and this genuine love for knowledge and wanting to understand, I will never be offended, regardless of what you ask. And they were asking me so many different questions about being a woman in Saudi Arabia and how it feels for me. And I gave them an exact project that the kingdom had led that helped women continue their education, helped women that needed to go to work, back from work, that necessarily didn't have a car, didn't have the means for transport, even the finances for transport. So it's a reduced cost travel program. This is just one of the many reforms under Vision 2030. For example, what they'll say is you book an Uber and it's in partnership with, I think they organized it through Uber. It's reduced costs. So for example, if it would taken you, we'll say 20 euros to get to work, it'll be maybe 3 or 4 euros. That's you pay and the
wow.
government pays the rest.
That is
All, yeah,
extremely helpful.
to continue working, to continue your education. This is just
Yeah.
one small program. And I told them firsthand because I knew a friend, and now, mashallah, she's a very senior position, but when she first started out, she didn't have a car, she didn't have the means for transport, and she was benefiting from this program. So every day she would take
Mhm.
Uber at a very reduced cost that was funded by the government. So this is just one success
Wow.
story, one part of Vision 2030 that people don't know about. It's a small program. It's not glamorous, but the impact it has had for women is remarkable.
Yes, the impact at least. I mean, just come from point A to B and to have the opportunity to, I would say it's like a kickstart into the workforce, right?
It is.
Um,
It encourages you
yeah,
and it supports you.
yeah. Wow. Um, well, I would like to go back more to your career now. You've mentioned that Sure, we mentioned here you have a career in journalism, you're a senior journalist, you have met incredible people, you've traveled the world, one could say. And I mean, definitely one could say. And my question is, what are one of the most essential skills that a journalist needs nowadays? Because the media is always changing, and especially with the digital area and now with AI, it's really changing. What are one of the must-have skills for a successful journalist?
I think it goes without saying the basics, fact checking, writing skills, but one skill that's it's very important and I'm not seeing it enough nowadays is empathy. And even when I
Mhm.
have interns coming in, I'm always stressing this importance of empathy because I ask them firsthand, why did you choose this job? It's not for the money, because there's easier ways to make money. It's not for the fame. You can easily get famous off of anything. Why did you choose this job? And it usually originates from the answer of, I love telling stories. I love connecting with people. I love being a source of factual information that amplifies the stories that need to be told. So it all goes back to having that empathy. You can't do any of that without empathy. You need to be able to connect with people and have this level of empathy, regardless of if they came from a war zone, or if they're going through a humanitarian crisis, or even if they're just, going about their life, daily life. You have to have this ability to look them in the eye, connect with them, and make them feel comfortable and safe. So I think this all is under the umbrella of journalistic integrity. But I can't stress enough the importance of empathy, because if you don't have empathy, what are you doing in journalism? Because it is the most human based, most vulnerable sector, and we are
Yeah.
here to serve. As journalists, we serve. Consider me a microphone to amplify your voice because I'm at your service. So I need to have that empathy. But of course, goes back also to the traditional skills, fact checking, writing, knowing how to handle sensitive, situations, environments. But I can't stress enough empathy, 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 humanity.
I think it's also what should make us human, right? What distinguishes us, the empathy. And it's at the same time, as you mentioned, it makes us incredibly vulnerable, but then again, incredibly strong as a community or just people in general. So yeah, wow. Um, Going a bit back to the Kingdom, Saudi Arabia, you have, as a journalist, you have been, or you have the point of view from abroad, but also the inside point of view. My next question is, or is there in general one one general misunderstanding fact that people get wrong about the kingdom? And on the other side, one fact that they surprisingly get right.
Um, oh, this is a fun question. I guess common misconceptions or things that people don't understand. It depends where you're asking, which continent. I think in some countries there's a better level of awareness of what Saudi Arabia is in terms of culturally, geographically, politically, and even socially. And in some countries, people think we just have desert and oil. This is the one common misconception that people have. Um, so I think in terms of social reforms, in terms of opportunities for women, this is one thing that people kind of don't quite understand. Um, and I can't blame them fully because I think there's this concept of ignorance is bliss. The fact that it doesn't bother me and if I don't read about it, then I don't know and I can claim to believe what I want to believe. I think the idea of, how women operate within the kingdom, I still get questions about are you allowed to work as a woman, which in my mind is mind-boggling. But maybe in their mind, that's all they know. That's all they've been fed by traditional media or whatever it may be.
Yeah.
So I think social reforms that have expanded within the kingdom, also our landscapes. We have 13 provinces, yeah, 13 provinces, all diverse. When you look at the Red Sea, you have some of the most cleanest, crisp waters with the most beautiful wildlife there. And when you look more central, you have the financial district. You have the most beautiful skylines, the most advanced infrastructure that you can think of, the cleanest metros, the best roads that I've traveled on. And then we have rough terrains, we have desert. So I think geographically, this is one misconception that people just believe it's just desert. But if you even look up the Ministry of Tourism website, you look up Visit Saudi, you just type in Saudi Arabia, Red Sea. Type in Saudi Arabia, Taif. Type in different cities and you'll see the richness of it. Even Al-Hasa, the dates, the palm tree oases there are beautiful. I spent 2 days there just exploring that oasis, and it was gorgeous. It was unlike anything I've seen in the entire world. Geographically, there's a misconception. Economically, people just think it's oil, and that's it. I mean, I invite them to come to Gidea once it's opened. I invite them to come to the Red Sea. I invite them to explore Jeddah, the culture, the rich culture in Jeddah, because we had the Arabian Peninsula is very rich, historically in cultures of people coming, traveling, um, from different parts of the world. So to still maintain that, we have Al Balad, which is a UNESCO World Heritage Site, and it's beautiful. The architecture, the culture, the richness in the food and the people. So I think there's so much diversity. That's one misconception. And also women, I can speak, obviously I might be biased as a Saudi woman, but I can tell you from my job, my work that I do, my social media, it's all public. My friends that I know, the reforms have been transformative. And honestly, by the way, this is one thing we don't have. I've looked at other countries that there's a constant debate between pay gaps that men are paid more than women. We don't have that, by the way. Women are paid equally. That's
Wow.
always been a thing. People don't believe that. It's
Wow.
always been a thing, right? So
Yeah.
while people are debating about this and that, well, that's always been a thing for us. Healthcare, widely
Mhm.
accessible. So these are just some small things that people don't realize we have. Saudi Arabia, it surpassed the vision and surpassed so many other, reforms. So this might
Wow.
be one misconception people have.
And I must mention 5 years in advance. Yeah. We have 2025 and the vision is called 2030. So, wow. And also what you mentioned about the geographical landscapes and locations, the richness, the culture, cuisine. I will definitely put some links down below because I mean, I have to admit, Saudi Arabia has been on my travel list since I interviewed Dr. Margarete Schambeck, and I was like, I have to talk to my husband still about it, but it's definitely going to be there in the next few years, definitely, because it's impressive also what other people have, what you were telling me, what other people have, well, seen themselves. And as you mentioned, you have locals, but also expats, people who are coming to live there. So, wow, yeah, just incredible. Well, my next
Yeah.
question is kind of in a different area. It is about risk taking. Because I remember in one of your podcast episodes, you mentioned that your 20s and 30s are about risk or taking risks. And my next question to you is what has been one of the biggest risks that you took, but at the same time has been a defining moment of your career?
Ooh, I think easily discussions, starting discussions, because working as a journalist in Saudi, especially the sector that I work in diplomacy, Saudi Arabia being a diplomatic superpower, being a superpower in mediating between countries, there's always something to do. It's always nonstop, which I'm very privileged and blessed to be in that position to report on. So having that full-time schedule as a journalist and deciding I want to launch a media company to further tell personal stories and further give advice, career-based advice, that was a huge, huge risk for me. And even finding the time, and especially when you become a CEO of a startup or a company, it's not about you. It's never going to be about you. It's about the team that works with you. They rely on you heavily. You're making a direct impact on their lives, their livelihoods, their families. So for me, I didn't take the risk unless I knew that I can provide something for the public. I can, whether it's job creation for people, whether it's the spread of more information, accurate information of what's happening, and also job opportunity for the team that I'm working with. So that was a huge risk for me that took a while to kind of deliberate. Should I take the jump? Should I not take the jump? And alhamdulillah, I'm so blessed that I did. Obviously, we started in 2025. It's still a small media company, but I'm so blessed that I took that leap.
Yeah, I was just going to mention before you mention it, the time especially. It can be very time consuming, but once or if you know your why, your vision, I think that surpasses the I wouldn't call it stress, but the time intensity of your work, but also working with a team. It can be you learn new sides of yourself, new personality traits, maybe even, and it's a huge jump. But I'm happy that you took it because so many women on this podcast, they have said that. It was a risk, of course, and as women, we often tend to be not as risk friendly as men, for example. But they usually always say it was worth it. So thank you for sharing that. My last question in this deep dive section is about leadership and mentorship. What are your thoughts on that? And yeah, what are the words that you would share with our listeners, especially young women or young people in general?
I think mentorship is so important. I was mentored in my personal life by my mom. I learned everything I know is through her. And also, but work-wise, I had, a journalist that mentored me, taught me about a lot of what I know, just from observing her. She really stressed the importance of empathy to me, and she was the one that asked me, why are you going into journalism? And that question, that message always resonates in my mind. So mentorship for me is so important. On the other side, I always try to give as much time as I possibly can to mentorship, to mentoring people, whether it's something, more structured, like having an intern in the office, observing you, shadowing you nonstop, or responding to a LinkedIn message very quickly, or an email, or a DM that you receive on Instagram. I
Yeah.
think because, I can speak for myself. I've been very privileged in my life. Obviously, nothing came easy, and it was a lot of hard work, sleepless nights, nonstop, working multiple jobs. It's always been like that. But I've been privileged that I made it. I can say that I haven't made it all the way to what I want to accomplish, but I've gotten closer. I can say that. So I have a responsibility to support the next generation to do the same. I'm still very young, but I know there's people that are rising in the ranks that are graduating university, high school, that want to go into this sector. And I want to make sure they're going into this sector correctly. They have the support that they need. And I think in order to be a successful leader, you have to have a passion for people, regardless of what sector you work in. And I think I have that passion. Alhamdulillah, I'd like to think I do. I don't have all the time in the world, but any time that I do have, it's spent giving advice. It's spent connecting people to the right contacts. Mentor anywhere you go, any way you can, because to you, you might not have the time. It might feel difficult and you might feel the pressure. I do as well, but it means the world to that person coming up to you, to message you, to DM you. Trust me, even just telling them, hey, I acknowledge this. If you have any specific question, send it my way and I can respond. It means the world to them. And trust me, the impact it'll make
Yeah.
long term is remarkable.
Exactly, the impact you leave behind. I think that is one of the most important aspects of this. I call it forming bridges
I like
because
that.
you might be just helping slight might for you it might just be a small thing, but for the other person, as you said, it means the world. And I think very often we underestimate what a quick response can be. Well, just taking the time to consider another person, and sharing your experience with them. And it's not just, telling them what to do, it's more giving them an insight into something they might not have an insight to, yeah, due to their background or other reasons, yeah. So thank you very much for sharing that. Wow, this was a huge and great deep dive. I really loved it. I learned a lot from Saudi Arabia, your career, everything. And the next part is called quick question and answer, fast question and answer. Sorry, fast question and answer. And it is we want to learn more about your personality. There, we have had a great insight into your career now, but we would love to learn more about you personally. So it is in the mode of fast question and answer. The first one
Okay.
is there a place in Riyadh that kind of gives you this nostalgic feeling of home where you can sit down and like, yes, I'm home?
Oh, that's difficult. I don't know if I want to give away my secret spots in the city, but there's a few places. There is, honestly, it's with nature. I will say that whether it's in the Wadi, we have something called Wadi Hanifa, which is like a kind of like a valley where the weather is a bit cooler. There's
Mm.
nature, and water used to pass through there, historically before. So there's a lot of plants, there's a lot of vegetation, and there's no vehicles in that area. So it's once you get to a certain area, sitting down, kind of turning off my phone and just watching the sunset. That to me is it's the perfect moment. It feels like Riyadh. It feels like Saudiya. It's just that peace with the nature, with the history, and seeing the plants, the geography, the landscape, how it's changed. It's just so beautiful.
Wow. You mentioned history. My next question is, if you could have dinner with any historic person, which one would it be?
Oh, that's tough. I have so many. Um, oh, I have so many. I mean, when I think about Saudi history, there's so many within the kingdom's timeline. But I would say His Royal Highness, King Abdulaziz Al Saud. So he played a pivotal role in the kingdom that we know today. This conversation we're having today within the kingdom was impacted by what he did. So he unified Saudi Arabia, and his vision, his drive, the way he supported everyone he was with, his support towards women. He paved the way for what we know as the kingdom today. And when we celebrate National Day, we're celebrating the achievements that he did. So if I could do that and just ask a few questions, it would be remarkable.
Yeah. Wow. What is or still, or no, what is or was a dream you secretly held on to, um, even if it felt at certain moments in your life impossible to achieve?
Oh, I mean, I don't. This is very tough. So discussions has been a dream I've had for years, and I will say I did take that risk and accomplish that dream, thankfully. Um, I think a dream I'm holding on to, and I haven't like publicly said it, is I want to hold a position that allows me to serve the kingdom wider, not just as a journalist with my writing, with my voice, but a position of service and diplomacy would be a dream that I've held on to for years. I know I'm very young, so it's a long way to go, but being able to serve the kingdom on a wider scale diplomatically would be a dream.
Wow. I always have this phrase in mind. What you said is the soft power diplomacy. And I think you're a wonderful person. You would be great for that position. So, yeah, keep
Thank you.
going.
Thank you.
What is the or has been the best advice you've ever given? Have ever been given? Sorry, that one.
Well, ever been given? I think it goes back to advice with my mom. It's a two-part advice that I said, find every opportunity to do good in this world. And then also, she always
Mhm.
told us at a very young age, you were blessed and gifted with a skill. You might not know what that skill is now. Maybe you're young, you haven't found your skill, but you've been blessed with a skill in this life. Find a way to do good with it. Whether it's my skill, for example, I've always believed is connecting with people. It's my words, my writing, the way I can connect with human beings that I want to use that for good. Your other people's skill might be math. Your skill is podcasting, connecting with people. It's using that diplomatic skill for good. So everyone that has a skill, I would say use it for good is the best advice I've ever been given.
Well, I think talents or gifts are they're a blessing, and at the same time also it's an obligation to pursue it because you have been given it for a reason.
I agree.
What is a book that you recently read that made you change your mind on a certain issue?
Oh, that's tough. So I haven't done as much reading as I should lately. I've been so busy, but
Same
I think
here, same here.
it's um, so obviously for me, my number one book, and I don't want to, dive too into religion too much, but it's, the Holy Quran because it teaches me every time I feel lost or confused, I go back to it. And I recommend to my friends, and they're the most hardcore conservative Baptists from Texas. And I always tell them, even if you're not Muslim, read the Quran in English because it teaches you lessons about investment, treating your neighbor, treating people, humanity, even, biologically, it teaches you a lesson about the woman's body, taking care of children, giving birth. So that for me is where I go for life lessons. A book I've also read right before I started discussions was I think Failing Forward by it was Maxwell something. I need to find the title, but I've read that most recently.
Yeah.
That was interesting because it
Failing
really
forward.
is it Failing Forward? Is that it? Maybe. I
No,
think
no, I'm asking you because I love the title.
Failing Forward, but it teaches you how to look at failing in a new lens. So failing forward,
Mhm.
make mistakes, learn from your mistakes, don't let them stop you. So even when having, discussions in media company, there's so many mistakes that we made. There's so many mistakes we're bound to make. But looking at those mistakes as an opportunity to learn, adjust,
Mhm.
and grow, so welcoming failures rather than looking at it at as a closed off lens. So I think that's a book that I've read recently that kind of changed my perspective on failure.
Yeah. Wow. Wow. Yeah. What motivates you to keep going even on the tough days?
Oh, I think I'm so two sides. Obviously, family motivates me so, so much because I come from, a very hardworking family that's very driven, very successful. And also personally, from another lens, I'm very competitive with myself. I don't like the idea of comparison or comparing yourself with anyone else because that's when you fail. If you compare yourself to
Yeah.
another individual. I look at myself and I compare what I can do in terms of how far I can push myself in my career within diplomacy, within journalism, within being a business owner, a businesswoman. I look at how far I can push myself. I think that drives me. Knowing
Mhm.
that, okay, I never thought I could achieve this, but I did it. I did it at a young age. So wait till what next year has to offer. I know I can do that. So setting these new standards of success for yourself, that's what drives me, I think, and motivates me.
It's so important, as you mentioned, to every once in a while look back and to see how far you and to, I would say, give yourself a round of applause, even because it hasn't been that easy, and we tend to lose focus often of what we have achieved. Yeah, but then again, career and life is like an escalator. You just climb another step.
I agree.
Definitely. What's something you believe everyone should have tried at least once? It might be food, it might be a sport, it could be whatever.
Something I believe that everyone should have tried once. Traveling to a new country, I would say, in a country that you wouldn't normally travel to. So I've been to countries around the world that I would have never traveled to on vacation, but my career took me there in diplomacy. And I think being exposed to that new culture, that new language, that new way of life, it really introduces you to a wider demographic of people. And kind of in a selfish way, it helps you be more open to new cultures, new
Yeah.
understandings. So it's a selfish and selfish approach, but you're going in, you're being exposed to something you've never been exposed to. You're breaking kind of misconceptions you've had internally, and that helps you connect to people. And long term, as cliche as it sounds, it helps you become a better human being, more
Yeah.
empathetic, more understanding, because you put yourself in the shoes of someone across the globe you wouldn't do it before. So for me,
Mhm.
that I would go to a new country I've never thought of going to.
Yeah. I think it also helps you to find yourself better, to understand yourself better, because you have broadened your horizon. Now you know who you are. At least that was in my case, yeah.
No, but I like that. That's beautiful. I never thought of it that way, but it's true. It does help you kind of understand yourself.
The next question is if you could master any new skill, talking about something, trying on something new again, right? Which skill would it be?
Oh, okay. So in school, I was terrible in math. I've never been good at math, and I don't think I'll ever be
Same
good at
here.
math. So that's
I
one
always say
skill.
I chose words for a reason.
Think exactly, right? You naturally go into the field that you excel in, and I was terrible in math. I was advanced in everything and throughout my education. In math, I was maybe normal, almost a year behind, always, always. So it's like math was never a strong suit. But also, I'd want to master languages. I'm learning Spanish right now, but I've been working on it for a few years. I studied it in high school, but lost it for many years. So if I can master multiple languages, and they always say communicate with the person. If you really want to know them, communicate with them in their language. And I have a
Yeah.
passion for meeting people, knowing people, understanding, how their brain operates. So in order to do that, I need to speak their language. So I want to master languages. This is what I want to do.
Yeah. Wow, that's so true because there are always some words that you cannot translate into another language and they have a deep, deep meaning. And I find that amazing. What is the best part of your job?
Oh, there's so many. It's not always, fun and games. It's very stressful and it's very high intensity. And it's a lot of sleepless nights, unfortunately. But the best part is people. As cliche as it sounds,
Yeah.
it's people. It's connecting with people, hearing their stories. And I think there is, even on an emotional level, when you give someone their time and you say their name as you're speaking to them, you're giving them their time and you're listening to what they have to say. It makes such a profound impact on them. It really
Yeah.
does long term. So I think I love people. I've always had a passion for people. And if you don't, you're in the wrong sector. If you're trying to go into media and journalism, you have to love people. So I
Yeah.
think the best part is just meeting so many people, honestly.
Wow. It's this connection that you get. That is very true. Especially nowadays in the media that we have, we kind of feel with social media, we kind of feel connected, but then again apart because we only share, or very often only share about us and ourselves. So that is why empathy and real connection is more important than ever. That's true. Last but not least, and also in honor of your podcast, it's called Discussions Let's Make an Impact. I love the title. What impact do you hope to leave behind?
The impact. I think I want to leave back as much as information as I can through our videos, through our content that's kind of physical. But in terms
Yeah,
of, what I want to leave behind, how I want to be known and remembered, I think generous. I want to be remembered for generosity. So giving back as much as I can from the company that we have, giving back opportunities, internships, on the podcasting side, even studio spaces for people to share real stories, beautiful stories of impact. And I want to give back information. Like I said, I'm privileged enough to be able to meet these high level officials, to be able to meet these C suite top executives. If I can sit down with them, connect with them, share their stories, their career advice, their life advice, and I can give that back to the public on a global level, and everyone can listen to it and learn from it. I mean, this would be my dream come true. And that all goes back to what I learned from my mother growing up, generosity and
yeah.
service. So I think that's my impact, inshallah, that I want to leave behind.
Wow. What a closing statement. I love it. And I would uh, tell everyone to just consider the impact you want to leave behind because it can be life changing, not only for you, but for so many other people out there. Thank you, Lama, for taking the time. It was amazing to learn more about you, your background, but also the kingdom, Saudi Arabia. It's fascinating, the country, the transformation, and also the richness and culture and everything, and especially cuisine. I have to tell you, I love trying new foods, so I'll definitely visit there, especially trying
You
to
have
some new food.
you have my contact. Message me anytime you're here, and we'll show
I
you
will.
around traditional food. It'll be amazing, inshallah.
Wow, definitely. Thank you so much for taking the time. We wish you all the best. And for our listeners, I will link Lama's podcast discussions down below. So have a look at it. It's in English. And I loved it. I love the episodes, the people that she connects with. So make sure to have a look, and also on her social media channels because she is an incredible, well traveled person. You definitely learned one or two things from her channels.
Simone, thank you so
Thank
much.
you
Honestly,
again.
it's been a privilege. Thank you.